Well, hey, greetings and a most heartfelt of salutations, everybody. Welcome to the channel. My name is, of course, John Campea, and this is Ask John Anything, a little show that we do here on the weekends when we don't have a regular show going on. Gives us a chance to get together and chat about the things you want to chat about. Now, the neat thing about the Ask Me Anythings is that, yes, you can write in questions about movies and movie news and TV and streaming, just like an open mic, but we also like to encourage other types of questions on Ask Me Anything that you guys would like to know about, whether it's about technical issues, gear, equipment, and software that we use, the YouTube business in general, the company, the show, all that kind of stuff. We're here to talk about all the stuff that you guys want to talk about. Now, just like I like to do because I'm doing this show solo, I just want to ask you guys in the live chat, and hello, everybody in the live chat, from Casey and Michael and Rose Color Boy and Fang Blaze and Scott Logan and Dylan and everybody else. Just let me know if you guys are able to see and hear me okay, because I don't have anybody else here to tell me they can see and hear me okay. You know what? By the way, that's one of the things I really like about doing these Ask Me Anythings is, and you guys are saying, yes, you can see and hear me okay, is it kind of harkens me back to the olden days, which were really not that long ago, when I used to do everything solo. Like, remember when I used to do everything solo? The show, like everything. And while I really do like having the crew, don't get me wrong, I completely, very, very much am happy that we are where we are. I kind of miss those days a little bit. So, anyway. So with that all said, guys, we are sitting here to talk about the stuff that you guys want to talk about. By the way, it is game day, The Last of Us. Episode 4 airs in just a couple of hours. If you're watching this show afterwards, the episode 4 is probably already aired. I tell you what, I can't remember the last time I've been this excited and this taken with a show this fast. I'm not saying it's never happened, but it's been a bit since I've gotten this excited and this completely drawn in to a show this quickly. I mean, 3 episodes in and I am hook, line, and sinker. I am all on board of this show. I am absolutely thrilled with it. I cannot wait for the episode tonight. We got some friends coming over tonight to watch episode 4 together. We're order some food, have a little viewing party. I'm sure a lot of you guys are going to be doing the same thing. So so listen, let's not waste any more time and let's get right into it, shall we, with the questions you guys have. By the way, I'll let you guys know the super chats are still open. I will leave them open for a little while until we hit a certain number of super chats, and then I'll have to turn them off. But for now, they're still open. So if you got thoughts, theories, comments, or questions you have, and you'd like to fire them in, go ahead and do that. But for now, let's get to the questions that have already been sent in, shall we? We're going to start off here with Luke1234, who writes, at the height of you playing World of Warcraft, what was the moment or event that started your decline of playing? Bad expansion pack or life goals? Well, it's really happened twice. The first time was when I was just heavy into the game. And I got, at the time, the level limit was 60. 60 was your level limit. Now, just so you know too, I'm an odd kind of World of Warcraft player. I don't like playing in groups. I don't go on raids very often. I don't join groups. I don't do anything. I like to play solo. So I like to do all the solo story stuff. At any rate, once I got to level 60 and there wasn't really anywhere else for me to go or to do, and you got to remember, I had played for a bunch of years, heavily played the game. And it was just like, okay, it's time. And then I kind of fell away from the game at that point. Now, in the meantime, expansions started to get added. Level 60 maximum went to level 70 maximum and whatever. So then a few years later, just a couple of years ago, I got back into playing World of Warcraft again. And I started from scratch. I started with a new character. And along came the Battle for Azeroth expansion pack. And it effed everything up. And I remember my very first time sitting down to play World of Warcraft after the Battle for Azeroth expansion pack came out. I was like, what the hell is this? And I just did not have a good time. Turned it off, came back to try it again. I'm like, nah. And I haven't played since. So hopefully that answers that question about that. All right. Next up, we got Al Renshaw, who writes, one of my favorite comedies of all time is Undercover Brother. I love that movie. That could never get made in today's climate. Oh, it could. See, a lot of people always say stuff like The Office couldn't be made today or whatever. And, you really could when it's done in a satirical tone, like these things are. But Denise Richards was in that, right? Dave Chappelle made an appearance in that. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not the world's biggest fan of Undercover Brother like you are, but I totally think you could make that show today. Look, in a world where Tosh 2.0 or Tosh.0 plays, he does some massively edgy satirical stuff. And because it's done in a satirical way, he's able to get away with a lot of that. And I think a lot of that stuff you could do as well. All right. Next up. That was Al. Next up, we go to Al Brunshaw. What makes Boston cream from Tim Hortons so good? Well, first of all, the pastry of Tim Hortons donuts are great, but it's almost like a pudding kind of filling with their Boston cream. It's just amazing. Let's see here. Next up, Dr. Bright writes, "Hey, John, how are you and how was Nintendo? Are you a roller coaster enthusiast? I love theme parks and roller coasters." Ann and I went to Nintendo World, the new Super Nintendo World. We went to one of the preview days, and it was amazing. I will share a little video reel that Ann put together of our time and our day there, but it was absolutely fantastic. I highly recommend, if you live around Los Angeles or you're planning on coming to LA, book a day, go to Universal Studios Hollywood, and go to Super Nintendo World. Now, Universal Studios Hollywood now has Super Nintendo World, and they've got the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, and both are fantastic. They're both really, really fantastic. Better than that bag of shit Disneyland. Anyway, oops, did I say that out loud? All right, next up. Cash writes, not a big fan of M. Night, but Knock at the Cabin was fantastic. I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up in my top 10 of 2023. Won't want to miss this. Yeah, Ann and I both want to go see it. We did not see it because we were both extremely busy this weekend, things I can't discuss right now. But both Ann and I separately and together were very, very busy this weekend. So I didn't have a chance to see it yet. I've read the synopsis of it. It sounds great. I know it didn't do fantastic at the box office this weekend, but I'm looking forward to checking it out. I'm glad you liked it that much, Cash. All right. Next up, we've got Jai CSC, who writes, if Nate in Ted Lasso is at the top of your TV list, where does Lucy from Peanuts land? Also, the Peanuts movie is just delightful apart from Lucy. I don't mind. Look, Lucy's mean to Charlie, but she never tries to destroy Charlie Brown, right?
I don't know how to respond to
She's always mean to Charlie, but she's never tried to straight up destroy Charlie Brown. And that's a big difference. But yeah, by the way, that Peanuts movie was really, really good. I enjoyed that a lot. All right, Orange Hand writes, my bro is taking me and our dad to the renovated Rogers Center this year to see some Jays games. Nice. Are there any sports arenas you really like or dislike? I used to love, back in the day when Rogers Center first opened, it was known as the Sky Dome, which is a really good name, actually. And it was beautiful. It's older now, but I still think it's a terrific stadium. I'm telling you what, and I know this is a little bit of recency bias and I live in the area, but oh my God, SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles is the most breathtaking stadium I've ever seen. Now, Ann and I have also recently gone to Allegiant Stadium in Vegas, where the Raiders play. It's a brand new stadium, and on the outside, it's incredible. It's really nice on the inside. It's good. But I mean, SoFi is next level. If you're somebody who really likes sports stadiums and sports venues, you owe it to yourself to try to get out to LA and try out SoFi Stadium. It's actually a breathtaking experience. It'll put every other stadium to shame. And yes, WrestleMania is coming to SoFi. Ann and I got our tickets. Ann and I and Ray, I believe. Yeah, Ray. So we got tickets for Ray. And myself and Ray are going to be going to WrestleMania this year. So should be fun. And it's at SoFi, which is one of the reasons I wanted to go. All right. Next up, Daniel Vakura writes, with the new DC slate announced, it made me think of the awful decision again in the Snyder Cut to retroactively make Man of Steel worse. The general really being Martian Manhunter isn't criticized enough where he didn't help Superman in Man of Steel. I know he says he realized he has a stake in the world, but he is the worst DCU hero. It's better than Man of Steel. It's better that in Man of Steel, the general isn't Martian Manhunter, honestly. Where's part 3? Or was that part 3? I'm going to guess. Oh, no, it was 2-2. Yeah, listen, I'm going to tell you, look, the Snyder cut of Justice League is an improvement. Like, listen, I don't care what anybody says. I have defended the original theatrical release of Justice League since the day it came out. Now, this is before people were butthurt about it, the Snyder, this and that. This is still when everybody was just looking forward to the movie. And I saw it. Now, granted, other than Birds of Prey, the Harley Quinn movie, which I did not like, I have liked every DC movie. I think I have. Yeah, I've given a positive review to every single DC movie there is. Obviously to Man of Steel. And I really, really like, I think the Snyder cut is an improvement over the theatrical version. That being said, there are a couple things in it. I mean, there's a reason why movies aren't 4 hours long. One of the dumbest scenes in that movie, and you guys have probably heard me talk about this before. I mean, this is why editing exists. Because even though the HBO cut of Justice League is the better version, no doubt. Let me be very clear. It is the better version. Still, that scene, one of the dumbest scenes I've ever seen in a comic book movie ever. And you guys probably know what I'm thinking about. Actually, let me see you guys in the live chat. Fire in a quick note here if you think you know what scene I'm talking about. And we're not talking about Martian Manhunter yet. Fire in a note in the live chat if you think you know what scene I'm talking about no, it's not the Flash scene. James Argenta got it. It's that damn Aquaman scene where he's in his Norwegian village and there are these harpies standing around, and as Aquaman's going, for some reason, there's no reason given for any of this. As Aquaman is just going to walk into the water, you got these women standing around these thick sweaters going, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? This is so stupid. Again, it is the better version of the movie, no doubt, 100%. But it's such a... Well, what the fuck was that? Anyway, there was that scene. But yes, the Martian Manhunter thing was dumb. Because just they thought just by writing it in this line saying, I now realize that I have a place in this fight. No. That doesn't excuse anything. The world was being destroyed in Man of Steel. The world was literally coming to an end. And he did nothing. So I agree. I thought that was again, the HBO version is the better version. But that there are still a couple of things in there that made no sense. And that whole part, and just giving him the one throwaway line of, I now realize I have a part to play in this fight. No. The world was ending. And he didn't think, hey, maybe I'm Martian Manhunter. Maybe I should do something. Nah, Last of Us is coming on. I'm going to stay at home. Yeah, that was a bad decision. I mean, look, again, a lot of great decisions in that cut of the movie. A lot of the cyborg scene, that whole sequence of scenes with him, finding out the details of people's lives and all that kind of stuff. Like, that was great. That was fantastic. A lot of very good decisions in that thing, but those are two of the dumb ones to me, at any rate. Anyway. Okay, let's keep moving on here. Ghazi writes, I just finished, and sends in like a $20 super chat. Thank you, Ghazi. Appreciate that, man. I just finished Tulsa King, and I got to say, it's a bad day at the office for Sheridan. What a difference in writing between Yellowstone and Tulsa King. I continued watching it just because I love watching Stallone. Your thoughts? Yeah, listen, I quite liked when Tulsa King started. And to be honest with you, I love Stallone's character. Like, so every time Stallone's character was on screen, I was really enjoying it. But the writing of the story got pretty weak. It's like you're the big arch bad guy, this Irish biker dude. Just the big plan at the end is, We're going to go to their bar and shoot them up, and we'll be ready for them. That was it. That's what the whole thing came down to. It was nothing more complex, nothing more intricate, nothing more interwoven, nothing more subtle than that. And it was weird. Now, again, because I think the character is so great, because I think Stallone's character is so good, I still enjoyed watching it. And you could tell that Taylor Sheridan was definitely going for a different tone. He didn't want Tulsa King to feel like another Mayor of Kingstown, which, by the way, Mayor of Kingstown is awesome if you haven't watched it yet. That's the Jeremy Renner show. It's on Paramount Plus. He didn't want it to have the same tone as Yellowstone or 1883 or anything like that. He wanted it to have a different tone. You could tell that. But yeah, the story aspect of Tulsa King, even though I enjoyed watching it, and I'll watch season 2, because again, I just love the character, but it was, it's a little bit weak. Not Sheridan's best effort, to be honest with you. All right, thanks for that, Ghazi. Fangblaze71 writes, out of everyone on the John Campea crew, who would be most likely to lie about getting bit by a zombie in a zombie apocalypse? Ray. Ray would be, because literally Ray's, well, I shouldn't be revealing Ray's medical details. Yeah, Ray will pretend like nothing's wrong. Ray will just pretend nothing's wrong. So 100% Ray is the one we would have to keep our closest eye on. We'd absolutely have to keep our eye closest on Ray. All right, next up, Danita writes, who's your Super Bowl pick? Philadelphia Eagles is my Super Bowl pick. Next up, the Geeky Unlimited writes, a Man Called Otto has made close to $84 million on a $50 million budget. Is it profitable at this point? No, because you got to remember, you have to add on top of that marketing. And then from the amount of money it makes at the box office, you have to minus 33% for, generally speaking, what the theaters keep. So no, A Man Called Otto at this point has not yet turned a profit or broken even. Let's see here. Let's see. Rose Twins writes, 1 of 2. Hey, John, met in Atlanta with our twins. Oh, I remember. It's funny. I just came across the photo of me and your 2 girls. I was going through some old photos of mine, and I came across, I love that photo of me with your daughters. I love, love, love that photo. You can tell how much I love it because I meet a lot of people, but I remember that day, and I remember your kids. They were adorable. 12 years of Campea fandom. Nice. Anyways, I was playing around with ChatGPT. This is amazing tech. How far are we from entire projects being written by the machines? Not far. Now, here's what I think will probably happen. I mean, and ChatGPT is incredible. Anne was showing me some of the stuff on it. It is incredible, but it is, as incredible as it is still actually quite limited. It is amazing what it can do compared to what machines could do just a couple of years ago, but it's still quite limited. What I could see happening is somebody maybe getting a base story written in something like ChatGPT, but then taking it to an actual human being to go through and touch it up. I could see that happening. I think, like, again, I haven't played with ChatGPT as much as a lot of people have, but just my exposure to it, it's amazing, but it's still quite limited. So, but I could see something like that happen, and who knows how far we'll be in the next couple of years. Anyway, thanks for writing in, man. I appreciate that. Okay. Next up, Aiden Foley writes, just watch Knock at the Cabin. The Sham Hammer is back. I thought it was really damn good. Batista's best performance to date. He's great in this. Yeah, I've been hearing good things about Batista's performance. The one concerning thing about Dave Batista, not Dave Batista, but about Dave Batista, to be honest, is he has only been the lead in a couple of movies so far, right? He's only been the lead in a couple of movies, but every time he's been a lead in a movie, the movie never opens well. Knock at the Cabin looked pretty damn good, but it didn't do great at the box office this weekend. If you go back to Stuber, remember that? That didn't do well. Not many people were interested in seeing that one he did called My Spy with the little girl. I don't know that he can lead a film. I don't know that he can open a film. And I wonder if the fact that they were leaning into Dave Bautista being the main star of Knock at the Cabin might have hurt it. By the way, if you guys have watched me for any period of time, you know I love Dave. I think Dave is great. I've gotten together with him on several occasions. He was kind enough to come on my 24-hour marathon that we did that one time for Philippines relief. He's fantastic. I love Dave. But just because I love him doesn't mean I can't be a little bit objective and say, I don't know that he can be the lead and open a film. I'm just not really sure. Anyway. All right. Next up, we go to who's next? Aiden Foley. No. Oh yes, that was Aiden Foley. Next up, we got Rose Twins 2x2 again. Oh, that was a two-parter. Talking about ChatGPT. It's cheaper than talent and will get better. As an author, I worry, will the awards create a new AI subcategories or put more checks and balances in place to preserve the sanctity of art and creativity? Again, it ain't there. It's amazing what it can do in comparison to what machines and computers could do just a couple of years ago. But it's still not there. It ain't there. You know, Anne was showing me, it's like, because Anne is a project big thing in project management. And she was like, watch, I'll tell it to write an article about the whatever dynamics and whatever project management, right? And it's amazing. It writes this article on project management, but it's very, very rough. And some information in was incorrect. And in places it didn't write it the way people actually speak. And it's those nuances. So what I could see is somebody starting off with like a template of that and saying, write a scene where two burglars are breaking into whatever. But then it would have to go into the hands of a real writer to take it and actually, finesse it, if you will. But again, we'll see. We'll see where things go. All right. Next up. Rose Twins also writes, part 3 of 3. If we could get a happy 11th birthday, Faith and Angel, please, cheers. Oh, they're 11 years old now? Man, they were so little. Well, happy birthday, 11th birthday to Faith and Angel. I remember you both fondly, and I hope you guys have a terrific birthday. All right, thanks for writing that in. All right, next up. Chris Martin writes, I just want to thanks for all you do. This community is a great place to be. Let us forget our real world problems, even if it's only for a little bit. Hey, listen, there is something very, very therapeutic about getting away from your problems for a bit because it puts problems in perspective. It gives us a bit of a reprieve. It allows us to refresh and renew, gain a different perspective. That's one of the reasons why movies and the communities that talk about them are so great. So thank you so much, Chris, and thank you for being a part of our community. All right. Next up, we got Fangblaze71 who writes, when you guys listed off the 2023 movies you thought would make 1 billion, most if you didn't have the Marvels with the first one making 1 billion, why don't you think the sequel will? I think part of it is because while even me, who is a big fan, I'm not going to say a big fan, even I, who am a fan of the first Captain Marvel movie, it's not top shelf MCU, right? Like, it's good. I enjoyed it. Made $1 billion. I had fun with it. But it's not one of them MCU movies. Like a lot of MCU movies I've watched 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times. Captain Marvel isn't one of those. I've watched it 2 or 3 times. I like it. I think a lot of people like it. Not a lot of people, despite the fact that Ms. Marvel was fantastic. Best show Disney Plus has had other than WandaVision. It's absolutely fantastic. If you've not watched Ms. Marvel, I don't know what you're waiting for. You're making bad life choices. Bad. Ms. Marvel is fantastic, but not a lot of people watch it. Not a lot of people know who she is. And if you didn't watch WandaVision, you have no idea who's that other girl. There's 3 of them now. And I mean, look, we might change our minds once a marketing campaign starts and we'll see how good it looks. Like maybe then we'll start going, yeah, it's going to make $1 billion. But I don't think, and the first one cleared $1 billion by just a bit. So listen, it's going to be a big hit. It's going to make a lot of money. I'm just not convinced right now it clears the $1 billion mark. It's going to be a huge hit, but whether it gets to $1 billion or not, I'm not really sure. All right. Again, we're talking about this without having seen any trailers yet. So let's see how we feel after we see some trailers. All right. Thanks, Fangblaze. Fangblaze. Oh, Al Renshaw writes. So you think studio will try live action Dragon Ball Z again? Eventually they will. I don't think they should. I mean, nobody went to go see it last time they did it. And for everybody who says, but that's because the movie wasn't any good. Yeah, but you didn't know it wasn't any good until after it opened. And nobody went to go see it when it opened. It may be great and be really successful in anime stuff. But I remember everybody telling me when Detective Pikachu was coming out, and all of you will deny it now, but so many people yelling and screaming at me, John, Detective Pikachu is going to be $1 billion film. Because you don't understand, John, it's the #1 money-making IP in the world. And they were right, it was. But I tried to let people know, you know what the #3 IP in the world is? Or #3 and #4? It was Winnie the Pooh. And nobody went to go see Christopher Robin's with Ewan McGregor, which, by the way, is a really nice little movie. And I tried to tell people, look, it doesn't matter how popular it is with all the people who play the games and all the people who watch the animated show. It does not matter. It's different when it comes to a movie. And sure enough, when Detective Pikachu came out, it didn't come anywhere close to $1 billion. Actually, how much did it make? I mean, it made a bit of money. Detective, let's see what happened. Let's see what comes up here. There it is. Detective Pikachu. Pokemon, Detective Pikachu. Yeah, it made less than half. Like every time, it's going to make $1 billion. It made $433 million, which, make no mistake about it, $433 million is still a good amount of money. That is still Black Adam wishes it made $433 million. That's still a good amount of money. I just don't think Dragon Ball Z has a live action audience. They've done it before. Nobody went to go see it. Granted, they didn't do it well, but still. So yeah, I mean, but eventually, listen, studios love IP, so at some point they'll get around to it. Fangblaze writes, what do you think the chances are that Hank Pym dies in Quantum Mania? Movies and shows love to kill the mentor character. Well, yeah, but also remember, it's the third film in, right? It's not like this is the first movie. He survived all the way through the first movie, then he survived all the way through the second movie, and now he's in the third movie. I mean, at some point, I definitely think characters die. Right? Now, I don't know if Wasp dies and Scott's daughter takes on the Wasp mantle. Some people are convinced that Scott dies. Michelle Pfeiffer's character could die. Michael Douglas's Hank Pym could die. It's definitely feasibility. It's definitely possible that could happen. Absolutely, that could happen. All right. Let's see. Next up, we got Miguel, who writes, what excites me most about Gunn at DC is his love for the Harley show. Hopefully we get a few more seasons. Thanks for introducing me to this hidden gem. Well, yeah, the Harley Quinn animated show is absolute gold. I love it desperately. And I mean, I've introduced some of you to it, but I was also introduced to it by many of you because I thought it looked like garbage. I thought it looked terrible. I had no interest in watching that show. And a lot of you guys kept convincing me to check it out. And it is great. And you're right. James Gunn loves that show. I think it's going to be around for a while as long as people continue to watch it. But apparently it does quite well on HBO. So I cannot wait for this Valentine's Day special, man. I'm telling you. All right. Next up, Ethan Holgate writes, one of two. Hey, John, out of curiosity, have you ever seen a movie where it was a character in it? Let me try this again. Have you ever seen a movie where it has a character in it that is just like someone you know in real life? For me, my dad is just like Clint Eastwood's character in Gran Torino. Get off my lawn. Now, whenever I watch it, I can't unsee it. That movie and James Cameron's Avatar movies are movies we share and love so much together. So even when he's gone, I'll never forget those great memories and reminders I'll always have of him. I mean, listen, I can't think of any off the top of my head right now, but I'm definitely sure I'm 100% positive I've watched movies where I go, oh my God, how much is that character like this person or whatever. I mean, just watching Spider-Man No Way Home, when you meet Ned's, I can't remember, was it Ned's mom or grandmother? Anyway, when you meet Ned's Filipino mom or grandma, like Anne and Ray and myself were laughing a lot because it reminds me a lot of my mother-in-law, Anne and Ray's mom. But a lot of those things. And listen, you're absolutely right. The great thing about movies, one of the many great things about movies, is they are experiential events, right? And they're most powerful. They're great individual experiential events, but they're most powerful when they're shared experiential events. You know, every time I've gone to a great movie, I remember exactly who I went with because it becomes this incredible experience and it's a shared experience with the people you see it with. And I know I've told this story before, but indulge me. You know, one of the big things that motivated me to leave Collider and go off on my own, and there were several reasons, but one of the ones was that my best friend growing up had just died. Just previously. And I remember him saying, life is too short to not be happy. But anyway, this friend of mine, his name is Brendan. I remember me and Brendan taking the bus in Hamilton, and we were young, man. We were kids. But we got on the bus in Hamilton Mountain, went downtown to the Lloyd D. Jackson Square, where there was a Famous Players cinema. Famous Players doesn't exist anymore, but there was a Famous Players cinema in the Lloyd D. Jackson Square, and they were playing Batman. They were playing Batman. And I will always remember me and Brendan going downtown to go watch Batman, the Michael Keaton Batman. And the first time in my life seeing a lineup, like a line that went all the way through the mall, out of the mall, down the city street. It was crazy. I'd never seen anything like it before. And now whenever I think about Michael Keaton's Batman, I think of my friend Brendan. That is just the great thing about movies, man. And we share those. And that way, whenever we lose some people who are close to us, we will always have them with us, especially whenever we think about those movies and those experiences we had watching those movies together. I personally love that. But anyway, I'm glad you shared that with us. Thanks a lot, man. All right. Next up, James Argento writes, with Ant-Man 3 screening tomorrow, and what are your final predictions? Mine is Team Ant-Man wins, but Council of Kangs will plot their revenge. I don't know. I mean, I don't know where they're going to end up. And honestly, I don't want to make any predictions about where the movie itself actually ends up. We don't really know a lot about the movie. We got a basic general idea. The trailers gave us enough information that we need. We know what it's about. They get into the quantum realm. They come across Kang. Kang needs something from Scott, and he's willing to offer Scott the ability to get time back that he lost with his daughter, but it's going to cost him. That's all we need to know, right? So I don't know. I don't know. And I'm not going to, I don't go to any screenings anymore. Like you guys know, I told a couple of months ago, I told all the studios to take me off their press list. I no longer go to any press events. I don't go to any screen. I still get the invites. I don't know why, but I don't go to any screenings. I don't go to anything like just, yeah. So anybody who ever says, John, you're just saying that so you can have access. I gave up any access I had months ago because it's not important. Like everybody thinks access is so important. It's not important. So I'm not going to see it till opening day. I got my tickets. I bought my tickets for opening day. I'm going to go see it next week. Super pumped about it. But I don't have a lot of predictions right now. I'm most curious to see how it'll do at the box office opening weekend, because I'm very, very curious to see. I have my doubts as to whether the trailers for Ant-Man 3 were really appealing for the average film goer. Like I know for a lot of you and for me who like nerd out over the comic book movies, there's a lot of stuff in those trailers that we really, really like. But I've said since the trailers came out, you guys know this, I've said since the trailers came out that I'm not 100% sure that these trailers are going to hit well with the general average moviegoer, because it just kind of looks like a big splotchy CGI fest. And I'm not saying it's not going to do well opening weekend. I'm just saying I don't know. And I'm very, very, very curious to see how it does. You know what? For those of you guys watching live, I'm going to put up a poll right now. I'm going to ask you this. Will Ant-Man and the Wasp make over 120 million opening weekend? Simple question. Will Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania make over 120 million. Now, Black Adam, what did Black Adam make opening weekend? Just for a rough comparison. Black Adam made 67 million. 120 might be high. 120 million might be really high. But I'm going to ask you guys, do you think Ant-Man and the Wasp will make over 120 million? Right now, 175 of you have already answered. 57% of you are saying no. 43 are saying yes. And I honestly don't know. I don't know. I don't know that it will make that much. I don't know. I just don't know that the trailers did a good enough job appealing to the average moviegoer. Maybe I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. But I'm going to leave that poll up for a bit. We'll come back to it in just a bit. All right. Let's keep going on here. Let's see. Next up, we've got Fangblaze71 who writes, what would be your ideal weapon in a zombie apocalypse? I'd have to go with the sword so you don't have to worry about running out of ammunition. Bad idea. Because the only time you can use a sword is you got to let them all get super close to you. That is a bad idea. I don't care if it's a flamethrower. Make sure you're fully stocked on ammo. You know what? Best answer, laser. Laser is your answer. You don't run out of ammo. Laser. Laser is your correct answer. You don't want it to be a sword because the only time you can use a sword is when they're close enough to get to you. And I much prefer fighting my zombies from a good distance away. I think that's the better approach. All right. Let's see. Are there more? There are more, but before we continue on, guys, we are going to take just a quick break. I'm going to get up, stretch my legs, rest my voice for just a little bit. I'm going to refill my drink, and we're going to hear from one of our sponsors of the John Campea Show. I really like these guys. One of the best chemical-free ways to beat addiction, our friends at Fume. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of this video, Fume. Be smart. Don't start. Kick the habit. Put it out before it puts you out. All phrases we've heard 100 times, and yet we still continue to have bad habits. Today's sponsor, Fume, is on a mission to accelerate humanity's breakup from the bad habits that consume far too many of us. Fume is a natural diffusive device that uses plants and behavioral science to help you trade out your negative habit for a positive one. You see, Fume is not a vape. It's a non-electronic device designed to transform your negative habits. Because instead of pods filled with potentially harmful chemicals like a vape, Fume uses cores infused with plants like peppermint and cinnamon for delicious natural flavors. And Fume's new version 2 model is snappy and tactile. With an adjustable airflow dial and a magnetic end cap, your fingers will always have something to do. The device itself is really attractive, and once I popped in the core and took my first inhale of it, it tasted fantastic. Guys, the easiest way to stop a bad habit is to switch to a positive one, and Fume is designed to perfectly do just that. So head over to tryfume.com and use the promo code CAMPEA to save 10% off when you get the Journey Pack today. The Journey Pack comes with 3 unique flavors and the new version 2 Fume to help kickstart your positive habits. That's tryfume, tryfum.com, and use the code CAMPEA to save an additional 10% off of your order today. All right, and thanks to our friends at Fume for sponsoring this episode of Ask Me Anything. All right, guys, let's keep on going here, and we're going to keep rolling with the next one that comes to us from Sidious Swift, who writes, Hot Toys says they'll make a custom 1/6 scale figure of you. Ooh. What's the outfit? What are the accessories? Limit of 3 accessories. Okay, so the outfit is probably just blue jeans and a black t-shirt. That's probably the outfit. Accessories would be probably a can of Zevia. Although, a full confession right now, we ran out of Zevia. I got my next order coming in. So this is actually a Diet Pepsi in here, just so you know. But it would probably be a can of Zevia. What else would it be? Probably a can of Zevia, my guitar, and maybe my Gunnar glasses. Yeah, so those would be my things. Boy, that would be really cool to have. By the way, have you guys seen, after the next, I have a really great John Campea action figure that someone in Mexico made for me. And during the next commercial break, I'll run and go grab it for those of you who haven't seen it, but it's really, really cool. All right, let's keep going here. Thank you, Sidious. Ryan Ramirez writes, will we be getting a new host with Aaron leaving? No, we will not be replacing Aaron. We're just going to go with a more regular flow of Me and Rob Monday through Friday, with Chris being on Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. So that's good. So we're not going to replace Aaron. Good question. Fangblaze71 writes, I know you have some pretty bad luck with the Maple Leafs. Yep. But my Detroit Lions have never been to the Super Bowl ever. I feel the pain. Yeah. But you've had some, I mean, with Barry Sanders. And by the way, they might be the most exciting team in the NFL right now. That team, for the second half of the season, they were playing like the most exciting brand of football. Listen, I kid you not. I compare them. I was talking to a friend of mine, and I stand by this. I don't care what anybody says. I compare them to the Kurt Warner Greatest Show on Turf Rams. They were playing lights out. They were beating up teams, and the teams that they lost to, they gave hell of fights to. I am telling you what, with Goff as their quarterback, who has come back into his own, I am telling you what, I would not. If I'm an NFL team, I'm not wanting to play the Detroit Lions the way they played. Absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. I think they're going to be, now I don't think they're going to win the Super Bowl next year, but they are going to be one of the most fun teams to watch next year, I think. All right. Next up, City Swift writes, a genie accidentally sends you to downtown Burbank in 1980, January 1st. The genie needs an hour to send you back. What do you do with your 1 hour? I don't know. I have no idea what Burbank was like in 1980. I mean, I'm a Canadian kid. I have no idea. Probably find a movie theater. Well, I only have an hour. I don't know. Find a restaurant to eat. I really don't know what I would do, Sidious. I have no clue. All right. Next up. Elksven Productions writes, thoughts on John Carpenter's They Live. Oh, I love They Live with the great one, Rowdy Roddy Piper. I'm here to kick ass and chew bubblegum, and I'm all out of gum. I love that movie. I thought it was great. John Reckhorn writes, do you think Taika should direct Thor 5, and will he? If he wants to, I'm totally down for it, as long as he brings the needle back from the extreme silliness back to the balance he had with Thor Ragnarok. I'd be totally good with it. I don't think he will, though. I mean, he's already done a couple of them now. Now he's got like some award-winning films he's kind of working on, so I don't think he will, but if he does, I'm totally all for it. All right, Fangblaze71 writes, you might already know because you've seen some, but I have a feeling the war machine we saw in the Secret Invasion trailer is a Skrull, and I am not going to address that because there's nothing I can say that somebody wouldn't say that kind of gave me an indication. So I'm not, I appreciate the question, Fangblaze, but I cannot even remotely address it at this point. All right. CJ Rebirth writes, what's your thoughts on Monsters, Inc.? Oh, I love Monsters, Inc. I think it's a fantastic entry in the Pixar lineup. Kyle Schneider writes, hey, John, are you and the crew going to guess which movies are going to make 100 million opening weekend in 2023 like you did last year? No. And part of the reason is because maybe next year we will, but the reality is while we are almost there, we are getting there. The box office still hasn't, we're not fully post-pandemic yet. I mean, we're getting there. Things are definitely starting to get back to normal, but it's too tough of a predictor right now. So we felt like we could do the overall, what could make $1 billion. So we did that, but I don't think we're going to do one on which could make 100 million opening weekend, because we got to see how opening weekends with the audience patterns and behaviors kind of shakes out over this year. So we probably will next year, but probably not this year. Good question. All right, next up. Allison Hoffman writes, updated house tour. How are your dogs? My dogs are great. I was just hanging out. Anne is off at Disneyland today. Yeah. So you guys know, I don't go to Disneyland anymore. I was a Disneyland season pass holder for like 7 or 8 years. And then they totally ripped me off. I'm not going to go into the whole story again. Many of you guys know the story. They totally ripped me off. So I'm like, fuck Disneyland. Not now. I did go again. A couple of months ago, because some friends of ours had like this free guest pass, and Anne really wanted to go. So I'm like, okay, I'll go, but I will never pay another dollar to Disneyland. I'm never going there again. If someone wants to bring me along for free, I'll go for free, but I'm not paying another dollar to Disneyland. But Anne still has her annual pass, and her friend Kat, They love going to Disneyland together. They go every like 6 weeks or so, they'll run down. So today, Ann and Kat are off at Disneyland. So I have been spending time with the dogs today. And I love my dogs, Lily and Shadow, 2 little dachshunds. Yeah, I should give an updated house tour actually, because now we have the home theater in there. We have the Campea Theater in there now. And let me see if I can, I'm not sure I can find it here. Let me see if I can. For those of you who may not have seen images of our theater room, let me see if I can find it here. Anne and I have always wanted to have our own theater room. And I'm not sure I have any pictures of it here. I mean, I wonder what happened to my pictures of my theater room. You know what? Let me check on my, let me check on my Facebook page, see if I can find it. But yeah, so what happened was Anne and I, we bought our first house ever. We're getting on 2 years now. It's actually been a while. We're getting on 2 years since we bought our house. And it is the first house that we've ever owned. And here it is. Let me see if I can bring it over onto the screen here. If I can. Yeah, there it is. Here, this is our theater room. So now, for those of you who might recognize the room and the panels on the wall, this used to be the John Campea Show studio. This is the converted garage. So when we bought this house, this was a garage. And I had my contractor convert the garage into a living space. And the garage door is behind the screen. So we drywalled over the garage door. And that was the John Campea Show studio there. That was it. And then when we moved the studio here to where we are now, Anne wanted to convert that into a theater. Hisense sent us now the little short throw projector up there, and that's a 150-inch screen. That's up on the wall. Hisense sent us that for free. So we got the projector for free. It's like a $5,000 projector. I wouldn't have bought that myself, but they sent it to us for free. And we set up a theater in there, and it's great. And yeah, but I should update our home tour to show the theater room in there now. And yeah, the couch is great. I absolutely love the couch. The couch is absolutely outstanding. I dig it a lot. To give you a sense, let's see if I can find this other picture of the couch. You know what? I can't find it. Where did it go? My photos are gone. Anyway, it's actually a really huge couch. Anne picked out the couch. And it's great. It's comfy. We can get like 8 people on it. It's really fun. I enjoy it a lot. All right. Let's see. Thanks, Allison. Next up, Nelson Alfaro writes, do you think Prey would have gotten at least one Oscar nomination if it was released in theaters? Photography, costume design, effects, maybe? No. Listen, I loved Prey. I think Prey was fantastic. I think it's easily the best Predator movie outside of the original Arnold one. I think it's fantastic. But when you run down the list of all the nominees in those other categories, Prey doesn't make it onto that list. Prey is a great movie. I really enjoyed it, but I just don't see where it would have gotten any Academy Award nominations in any of the categories. That doesn't take away how good the movie is. It's a really good movie. I loved it, but I can't see getting any Oscar nominations. All right. Let's see. Fangblaze71 writes, what point did you drop Walking Dead? Started watching it and I really like it. Currently on season 3. Rick and Daryl are one of my favorite duos now. I couldn't tell you which season it was. It was when I was still at Collider. Because we were doing like Walking Dead viewing nights, and I just remember watching at Collider. I'm just like, this show is so repetitive now, and I'm over it. I'm just over it. Not that I hated the show or was starting to hate it. I was just like, it's run its course. Like I felt that show a lot like The Flash ran its course a while ago. And so that's kind of when I fell off it. It was shortly after Negan, and I loved the Negan character. Don't get me wrong, I loved Negan, but it was shortly after the Negan character came around. It wasn't because of Negan. It's just that I was just like, there's nothing new to this show anymore. And so that's when I kind of fell off of it. All right, but I certainly enjoyed it for a while. All right. Next up, Mr. Hank Dunn writes, over under 45%, Gunn announces cast and directors at San Diego Comic-Con. I believe he will. How many, which ones get announced before then? Who knows? But there will definitely be. So James Gunn loves Comic-Con. So I think there's an over 45% chance of that. John Redcorn writes, it won't happen, but how hilarious would it be if James Gunn hired Roman Reigns as the DCU Black Adam? Gunn would just have to acknowledge him first. Acknowledge, do you mean acknowledge Roman Reigns or acknowledge that Roman Reigns is Dwayne? For those of you who don't know, WWE superstar Roman Reigns is in real life is Dwayne Johnson's cousin. So is that what you mean? He would have to acknowledge him first? You mean he would have to acknowledge Dwayne Johnson? Listen, Dwayne Johnson and James Gunn have sat down and had meetings together. I mean, they didn't turn out well, but I mean, they've talked about how they've had meetings together. So I don't think James Gunn would have any problem acknowledging, Dwayne Johnson or anything like that. Okay. Let's see here. Fangblaze71 writes, think we see the brothers Joel and Ellie meet in tonight's episode of Last of Us. Love their interaction with Joel and Ellie in the game. I don't think that happens today. I think it might still be a little bit early for that. Now, I did not see, full disclosure, I did not see the next time on Last of Us. I didn't see that. So maybe they hint to it. I feel like it might be a little bit early for that yet. Maybe episode 5 or 6, but I feel like it might be a little bit early for that. So I'm not expecting it tonight, but you never know. All right. Next. Oh, by the way, I cannot wait for tonight's episode of Last of Us. Oh my gosh. Jake sends in an almost $20 super chat. Thank you, Jake. Appreciate that, man. Who writes, hey guys, I don't know if you heard, but the FNAF, no idea. Guys, please don't write in acronyms. Please do not write in acronyms. Movie has started filming on February 1st. And one of the actors, Matthew Lillard. Oh, if Matthew Lillard, you're probably talking about Five Nights at Freddy's. Matthew Lillard has signed with Blumhouse for a 3-picture deal based on the first 3 games. What are your thoughts? Yeah, we actually talked about this on the John Campea Show the other day. I am actually very excited for this movie. I was very enthusiastic about it when they first announced that they were going to be doing it at all. I think it's a terrific idea. I think it's going to make for a great video game adaptation. I think there's a lot of fun you can have with it. I think Matthew Lillard is a perfect fit for a movie like this. I don't know what he's going to be doing in it, but I think of him and I think he's a perfect fit for something like this. Yeah, I am actually quite enthusiastic for this one. I really am. I think this one could be a lot of fun. And you got the Henson Company working on it with them, which is like a match made in heaven. I'm very, very enthusiastic about this, Jake. Very enthusiastic about it. All right. Next up, Ant Banks 1984 writes, over under 45% in Deadpool 3, Hugh Jackman at some point will wear the classic Wolverine yellow outfit from the comics. Well, what we have talked about and speculated about before is if there will be a scene with a classic 80s and 90s wardrobe change montage. You know, the classic montage, usually in some kind of rom-com or whatever, where a popular song plays, do, 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 and the one person's just sitting in the waiting room as the other person walks out of the change room with an outfit, and the person waiting goes, and then they go back in the change room, come out in another outfit, and then they go back in the change room, right? What we've talked about on the show before is if we think that the Deadpool 3 movie will have such a scene where Wolverine is trying on different outfits, and one of the outfits, he comes walking out in all spandex yellow with the big wingtip eyebrow things. Yeah, maybe in something like that. I don't think we'll see him like wearing it really in the movie, but in something like that, some kind of a joke thing like that, I could see them doing that. I think that could be fun. By the way, I almost forgot this. Allow me to just take a second before we get on to the next topic here, guys. For those of you who are watching, and if you follow me on social media, and we talked about it on the show the other day, But coming up in 2 weeks from today, we are having a special live event with me, Greg Alba of The Real Rejects, and Christian Harloff of The Christian Harloff Show. We are having a live event in Burbank, California at the Flappers Comedy Club. It's simply an evening with Campea, Harloff, and Alba. It is at 9 p.m. next Sunday, or 2 Sundays from now. And it's just going to be the three of us on stage talking about the world of online, the online movie world, and doing what we do. And specifically, because Ant-Man and the Wasp will have just opened a few days prior to that, we're going to be talking kind of in an open spoiler discussion format of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. And it's going to be a lot of fun. And if you go into the community tab of our Facebook page, just go to the main Facebook page, the John Campea Show Facebook page, and you'll see the community tab. If you click on that, you'll see a big post that has this poster on it, and it has the link to where you can go and get your tickets. There are still tickets available. Actually, the last I checked, there's like less than 40 tickets left. So, but there are still some available right now. Go and grab them up. Come and join us for an evening. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we hope to see a lot of you guys there. All right. Thanks for letting me plug that little tidbit there. Okay. Oh, actually, one of our channel members, TJ Perry, just wrote in, I got my tickets for Flappers, and I can't wait. Went to school with Greg and John from Real Rejects back in kindergarten through 8th grade. That's great. That's awesome. Greg and John are great guys. Ann and I often joke, because I'm Italian, Ann is Filipino. For those of you who don't know, Greg is half Italian, half Filipino. So Ann and I joke about that he is our son from the future who has come back in time. That's what we joke about. At any rate, love Greg and John. They're terrific guys. And I love the stuff that they do. I'm really looking forward to doing the show with them, with Greg at any rate, but I'm sure John will be there. All right. Let's see. Next up, where do we leave off with? That was Ant Banks, 1984. Okay. Next up, Jai CSC writes, as you and Ann have a varied cultural backgrounds, we were just talking about that, upbringings, were you surprised by any similarities when you first met each other's families? I don't think we were surprised. I mean, look, at the end of the day, families are families. I mean, just a great example of this is Ms. Marvel, right? When you watch, and I love that show so much, mostly for its family dynamics and everything. But when you watch Ms. Marvel, while they have it's this very cool way about them, the thing is we all recognize it, right? Whether you're from an Asian family or an Italian family or a Hindu family or whatever, within the veneer of our cultural differences, beneath the veneer are the same basic traits. So you can watch a wacky Filipino mom, but you could see a lot of similarities expressed in a different way in a weird Italian aunt or something like that, right? And so we really weren't surprised by a lot of the similarities, oddly enough. Very, very different, and yet very, very similar at the same time, if you know what I mean. Good question. I like that. All right. Next up, Fangblaze71 writes, will you be playing the new Harry Potter game? Absolutely. Ann and I are actually Ann is a major, major, major Potterhead. So we are both very much looking forward to the new Harry Potter game, as a matter of fact. Comes out next week, if I'm not mistaken, right? Like, I might be wrong about that, but I think it comes out next week. All right. Next up, Ryan Newsom writes, your thoughts on Kyrie to Dallas Mavericks. Did Lakers drop the ball? Wait a minute. Did the trade happen? Are you saying that in theoretical terms? Hold a second. Do you mean theoretically? Him going, wait, I didn't hear anything about it. Help me out. Is that theoretical? It's official? Kyrie to Dallas, huh? I didn't even know this. The trade happened. Yeah, I had heard that Kyrie had asked for a trade, but I didn't hear that it actually happened. Yeah, there it is on ESPN. Sources, Nets trading star guard Kyrie Irving to Mavericks, but who are they getting in return? The Mavericks are sending Dorian Finney-Smith, Spencer Dinwiddie. Tell you what, here's the thing though. Kyrie is a bit of a problem. I mean, look, his on-court talent is undeniable, but he is also a major off-court distraction and has caused problems. So I don't know. The Lakers didn't drop the ball because the Lakers had nothing to give for him. The Lakers are tapped out. They're at the spending cap limit. They've got very few draft picks left. Like most of their draft picks have already been sold off. They really don't have anything to give up. And there's nobody that they would have on the roster that I think the Nets would be interested in taking in exchange for Kyrie Irving other than AD. And you're not going to give up AD, and LeBron James ain't going anywhere. So what were you going to give up for him? And he's a major off-court issue. So I don't know. I do know this, though. He's a ridiculous talent. And, oh my God, if he can just keep his sanity in check, him and Luka on the same team? I mean, I don't know. It could go to hell real fast, but that could be, that could be, the Mavs could be dangerous, like really freaking dangerous. If Kyrie Irving is able to keep his head together, but we'll see. We'll see. All right. Thanks for letting me know about that. I didn't know that the trade happened. All right. Next up, John Redcorn writes, do you think we'll get another Men in Black movie? I do not. I mean, look, at some point, somewhere down the line, anything outside of 5 years is an eternity away in the movie universe, but I definitely don't see one happening in the next 5 years. You never know. Anything can happen. I just don't see it happening right now. All right. Mark Lemming writes, just sends in like a $20 super chat just to be supportive. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate that very much, man. John Redcore writes, super early box office predictions for Shazam 2. None. I mean, it's not going to do big business. The first one only made, what did it make? It made in the $300 million range. Didn't like 370 or something? Let me look it up here. Shazam made in total worldwide 366 million. And Black Adam just made roughly that same amount. I'm going to say if it's good, and we have no idea if it's good or not. I love the first one. If it's good, I'll say it can get to 400 million, but it's not going to be a big hit. It's just not as popular of a character. I love the first movie passionately, but I love it more than most people do. Not a lot of people like the movie as much as I did. So I'm going to guess 400 million, but again, it all depends on if the movie's good or not. We'll have to wait and see. All right. Where are we at next here? We were at, that was John Redcorn, right? Yeah. Frederico Jordan writes, where do you see the show 5 to 10 years from now? I don't know. It will be without me. I know that. 5 years from now, earlier than 5 years from now, I am retiring. But John, you're still pretty damn young. I know, but I want to retire while I'm still young, so I can do the things that I want to be able to do. And now don't get me wrong. I'm not going anywhere in the immediate future. I'm not going anywhere immediately, but like 5 years from now, I am retired. 5 years from now, I'm retired. And, where the show is going to be, I mean, I don't know. Like I will sell the channel. I will sell the show. Probably when I do, it'll be to like, what will probably happen. And there's no guarantee this will happen, but what will probably happen is that I will sell the show and the channel to some company. And then what will probably happen is a part of the deal of me selling the show is that I will then probably sign an agreement that I will stay on to run the show for 1 to 2 years. Right. And so then I will stay on for another 1 to 2 years running the show as we transition it away from me to other new talent. And then after the 1 or 2 years is up, I will transition out and then the show will continue on. But again, that's just one way it could go. That's just one way it could go. But again, nobody panic. I'm not going anywhere in the immediate future. I'm still here, but yeah, 5 years from now, I don't, 5 years from now, Ann and I will be doing several things. We will be traveling. We'll be working with nonprofit charitable organizations, and I'll be playing a lot of games. I'll be playing a lot of games. And I am going to go do a lot of camping. I'm going to do a lot of hiking. I'm going to do a lot of Canadian things that I really haven't had a lot of chance to do in the last 20 years. So that's what I'm going to be doing the next 5 years. And of course, Ann and I will be raising kids because I want to get out of this so I can focus on family. But yeah, that's the plan. That's the plan at any rate. All right. Thanks for the question, Federico. Next up, FangBlaze71 writes, do you like to drive? Personally, one of my favorite activities is just going out and driving. Would do it more if gas was cheaper. I'll be honest with you. I don't actually like to drive that much. It's kind of funny because in a lot of relationships, like when you're driving somewhere, like the husband will say, I'm driving, and the wife will go, no, I want to drive. And right. That's not me. And Ann and I both don't really like to drive. So it's like, whenever we got to go somewhere, it's like paper, rock, scissors to try to figure out who has to drive because neither one of us really likes to drive. But I will tell you what, I'm not going to lie. What has made it a lot more enjoyable has been having a Tesla, because Tesla has autopilot. And give an example. Last night I was driving back up from San Diego and I just get on the highway. I engage autopilot. I mount up my phone and put Hulu on my phone. Or Peacock, and I put on episodes of The Office or Parks and Rec, have a bag of Doritos, Diet Pepsi there, and I let autopilot take me as I go down the highway. It does make driving a lot nicer. It makes drive, and it makes our trips to Vegas. We're taking another trip to Vegas in 2 weeks, the week after Super Bowl. Because Ann wants to go. I'm not going to this show, but Ann's going to another Jonas Brothers show. This will be her 5th Jonas Brothers concert in like 6 months. But it makes our drives to Vegas a lot easier, man. We get on that highway, we get on the 15, and once we get on the 15, because we live pretty close to the 15 highway, and once you get on the 15 highway, it just takes you right into the strip. It takes you you just get on the 15 and that's it. You just keep driving, and then boom, you're in Las Vegas. You're on the strip. But you get on that highway and just turn on autopilot and let it go. So, but other than that, I don't actually like driving all that much, to be honest with you. All right. Next up, Aaron McKay just sends in a super chat to be supportive. Thank you, Aaron. Appreciate that, man. MP writes, do you think the DCEU Barbara Gordon will be introduced as Batgirl or Oracle? The plan seems to be as Batgirl, right? I mean, look, the Batgirl movie got scrapped because apparently it was unwatchable and unreleasable. That's what Peter Safran says, and that's everything I heard as well. Everybody can cry, no, release it anyway. Okay, tell me you know nothing about business without saying you know nothing about business. Releasing the Batgirl movie would have hurt DC. It would have hurt the brand. It would have hurt other movies they try to get going forward because it would have damaged the reputation of the brand even more. The movie was unwatchable. The movie was unreleasable. They made the right ballsy decision to cancel it. That took a lot of testicular fortitude. And everybody can cry about it all they want, but they're wrong. This was the right decision to make. That being said, that doesn't mean they can't take another crack at it. It also doesn't mean they couldn't use her as Batgirl moving forward. I'm not saying that they are. I'm just saying they could. So, considering she was going to be Commissioner Gordon's daughter, I don't see any reason why that can't still be the plan. I don't see why that can't still be the plan. So I think they're going to introduce her as Commissioner Gordon's daughter. But I mean, I don't know. You never know what James Gunn's wacky mind is going to do, so we'll find out. All right. Thanks, MP. Next up. Ant Banks, 1984 writes, Saturday night concert, Michael Jackson or Prince? Michael Jackson. Don't get me wrong. I would have loved to have seen a Prince show. 100%. Anne has actually gone to a couple of Prince shows. I never did. I never saw either Michael Jackson or Prince live, but I mean, Michael Jackson was the king of pop. I mean, I would probably go to a Michael Jackson show. All right. Kenneth Estrella writes, do you remember the first movie you went to Try it again. Do you remember the first movie you went to see, leaving highly disappointed? Ooh, that's a good question. I don't know. I mean, listen, when I was a kid, going to the movies was just a pure magical experience every time. Like it didn't matter what I was going to go see. I was just loving being in the movies. So like I talk about one of the very, very, very first times I ever went to a movie without my mom and dad. It was me and a couple of friends. We were really young. We went to the Limeridge Mall Famous Players Cinema in Hamilton, Ontario. And we went to go see the Kenny Rogers comedy Six Pack. This is going back ways. Like I said, we were young. We were really young. And that's not a good movie, but I had a lot of fun at it. So I can't remember the first time I saw a movie that I mean, obviously I come out of movies being disappointed today, but I can't remember the first time. That's a great question. I'm gonna have to give some thought to that, man. That's a good one. All right. Next up, Eddie Burton writes, it's amazing how each Lord of the Rings movie was made on a $90 million budget and achieved what it did. Comparatively, the first Harry Potter movie had a $125 million budget and Phantom Menace had a $115 million budget. True, but it's not an apples to apples comparison, right? Because they did things in a way that could be done much more inexpensively, like using their own in-house visual effects company, doing it in New Zealand with a lot of tax credits that they got for doing it there. I'm not saying it wasn't impressive. Oh, and also the fact that they shot them all kind of back to back to back, that increases the efficiency and brings down the overall cost. Again, I'm not saying that it's not impressive, but at that time, it's not like $90 million was considered an inexpensive film. And they had a lot of things going for it that they could keep the costs fairly low. Advantages that not other studios don't necessarily enjoy. Again, it's not that it's not impressive, but again, the back-to-back-to-back shooting really did help keep the cost down because you just have a lot of advantages doing it that way. It's why Rob and I always talk about we think more films should try shooting back-to-back like that. Anyway, great point to bring up, Eddie. All right, Scott Logan writes, have you beware of Power Green Lantern yet? Is that a play on the beware my might, like brightest day and darkest night? Is that a play on that? Have you beware? I'm not exactly sure what we're talking about, Scott. Anyway, Fangblaze71 writes, have you ever seen Outer Banks? It's some stupid teen drama. It has some stupid teen drama in it, but it's really good in my opinion. Trailer for season 3 looks really good. I'm going to be honest with you, Fangblaze, I've never even heard of it. Let me know where it's playing. I have never heard of it. So no, I have not seen Outer Banks, but not surprisingly, because I've never heard of it, but thanks for putting it on my radar. All right. Sean Gilstford writes, Campea, I forgot what I was going to ask you, but here's $5. Love the show and game day, insert Rave's voice. Enjoy the episode tonight, buddy. God, seriously, guys, I am so freaking excited for Last of Us tonight. I am so stoked. Episode 3 was seriously one of the most incredibly powerful episodes of television I've seen in years. Absolutely. One of the most powerful things I've seen in years. And yeah, listen, I get there are a bunch of people who just don't think gay people should be allowed to exist. And I get it. And now look, there were people who didn't like episode 3 for totally fine reasons. Maybe they thought it was slow. Maybe they're only interested in keeping the story on Joel and Ellie and all that. Totally valid reasons. If you didn't like that episode, there are totally valid reasons. And I'm not trying to lump it all in together. But there were also a lot of people who are just like, I don't like gay people. People who hump their cousins and all that kind of nonsense. And it's just ridiculous. Now, look, again, like somebody, what did you like seeing two guys make out? Hey, listen, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm a straight heterosexual guy. So no, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not proud of this, but watching gay sex scenes is a little uncomfortable for me. Yeah, I admit it, but it's the same thing as like, I almost want to vomit when I watch people eat ketchup and eggs. There is nothing wrong with eating ketchup and eggs. If that's what you like to do, more power to you. I think it's awesome. You eat you eat that ketchup on your eggs if that's what turns your crank. However, even though I'm all for you eating ketchup on eggs, and I will totally stand up for your right to eat ketchup on eggs if you want to do that, that's totally great. I'm going to feel very uncomfortable watching you do it. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, no, listen, I admit it. I'm a little bit uncomfortable with gay sex scenes on TV. Sure. But so what? It was a story about love. And it's a story about love changing your life in the midst of the most horrible hellscape of a world that you can imagine. That they were able to create a place of beauty. And I'm not talking about the physical place of the town. I'm talking about for them, they were able to create a place of beauty and a life worth living because they found love. And to me, it was one of the most beautiful stories, whether it was between a man and a man and a woman and a woman, it doesn't matter. It was just some of the most powerful storytelling I had ever seen. And done within the context of the world of The Last of Us made it so much more impactful. And as this series moves on, I guarantee you things that happened and lessons learned and principles laid down in that episode are going to carry through for the rest of the season. Guarantee you about that. Absolutely guarantee you about that. God, this show is so good. All right. Next up. Thanks for that, Sean. Last of Us, episode 4 tonight. Comics writes, a few weeks ago, you checked the seats for Ant-Man at your local AMC theater. I'm just wondering where it's at right now. You probably mean my showtime only has 3 seats left. Well, my showtime was the one I got tickets for was almost sold out anyway, but because I got tickets for a showtime that was like the Thursday night screening in the AMC Prime, that show was almost sold out immediately. But as we went and then looked at other seats and stuff like that in the regular theaters, it was still really early, but most of the seats weren't sold. But that's not a bad idea. What happens if we go over to AMC right now? If I go over to AMC theaters and check their theaters, I'll look at my cinema here, which is the, why is it not? Oh yeah, the AMC Tyler Galleria. And let me see if I can bring this up here. AMC Tyler Galleria, and we're going to get tickets. And what is the day that it opens again? The 17th, right? Well, so Thursday the 16th is the day Ant-Man comes out. So let me see if I can shrink this to the screen. Okay, so, right, why is it only listing? Do I have this right? It is the 16th, right, that it opens? It's not listing anything. What if I look at Friday? Maybe it thinks I'm looking just for Knock at the Cabin. Anyway, never mind. This little experiment went nowhere. So I don't know. I'll have to check that again at some point, and I will check that again at some point. But that's a good question. But again, they were not really selling out the other non-premium theaters. But again, that was just when the tickets first came out. That was very, very early. We'll see where the ticket sales are now. Easiest thing to do is for you to hop on your local movie theater website and just check for yourself. All right. Good question though, comics. All right. Next up, D Murdoch writes, hey John, how hyped are you for Daredevil Born Again? Very excited for it. I'm super hyped, but a bit worried. What are you looking for in the show? And do you think John Bernthal's Punisher will return? Possibly Midnight Suns. I don't have any answers about whether John Bernthal will or won't be coming back. My guess, and don't hold me to this, just a guess. My guess is that John Bernthal will not be in the Disney area. The character of the Punisher has become a little bit problematic for various external political reasons. So I don't know if they'll be bringing in Bernthal's Punisher or not. Punisher, I just don't see there being any way you could do that character in a PG-13 way. And Kevin Feige has said very definitively that Marvel is going to stay PG-13 other than Deadpool. He said Deadpool is the one exception to that. So unless Kevin Feige has changed his mind, he is a human being. Human beings can change their minds. But unless Kevin Feige has changed his mind, I don't see John Bernthal coming in. As far as what I'm looking for, I'm not looking for anything. I'm just looking forward to seeing what they've got. Just give us a great show. Everybody keeps trying to deny it, but I think they've made it pretty clear. Charlie Cox has made it very, very clear. This is not the same Daredevil from the Netflix series. It's very, very similar. He's almost identical to the Daredevil. But when you read all of the comments Charlie Cox has been making over the past 6 months or 4 months, whatever, he's made it pretty clear that it's not the same one. It's very, very similar, very identical. Some things are similar. Some things are going to be different. But other than that, I'm just looking forward to good storytelling, a good show. Hopefully it's more like the Daredevil we got from Netflix and less like Moon Knight. I didn't hate Moon Knight, by the way. I didn't hate it, but I was a little bit disappointed by it. So here's hoping. Fingers crossed. All right. Next up, Quinn Udi writes, I feel like the biggest difference between Stuckman's and John's is that Chris's reviews from a filmmaker's perspective and Jeremy reviews as a moviegoer. I mean, I've made that comparison before. So we're talking about Chris Stuckman, Jeremy Johns. I think the two best pure film critics on the YouTube space. And Chris does less of it now. You know, I know them both. I've had Chris and Jeremy both on my shows. Jeremy's worked with me before. I've had Chris on panels at Comic-Con with me. I think the two of them represent very, very different types of movie review styles. Stuckman, you put it from a filmmaker's point of view. I don't define it that way. I say he reviews films more from a technical point of view, and from an artistic point of view. You know, that's his approach, how he breaks down and analyzes movies and talks about them in those terms. And that's completely valid. Jeremy really reviews them from the experiential nature of films, right? The experience of the films, which is also completely a valid way of doing it. And as such, the two of them are juxtaposed against each other very starkly, but they're both terrific. I think they are the two best pure film critics when it comes to the online space. And I think it's specifically because of that difference they have. Whereas, again, Chris approaches it more from the artistic and technical point of view and breaking down the analysis of the film, whereas Jeremy really breaks down the experiential nature of movies, which is something that a lot of us, you know, relate to a little bit more. And they're both brilliant. They're both great at what they do. But I think that's the difference between them. Okay. Let's see here. Next up, we've got Koa 1708 writes, do you think James Gunn's Superman will be the old school, oh shucks Boy Scout version or more modernized? I don't think old school works nowadays. No, the old school, the Christopher Reeve Superman does not work today. I'm not saying the old school Christopher Reeve Superman movies don't hold up. They don't actually hold up all that well. Look, it just is what it is. If you've never watched one of the you take somebody who's never seen a Christopher Reeve Superman movie before, like today, and you sit them down today to watch it. I don't know that it has the same impact as it did on people who watched it back when it came out. I'm just saying. For people like me who watched those movies growing up, yeah, there's still a lot of joy in those movies, particularly Superman 2, but they don't hold up. At any rate, yes, the old Boy Scout, don't worry, ma'am, I'll get your cat out of your tree for you and have some delicious apple pie. I don't think that Superman works today anymore. Superman has always been, and this is where people make mistakes. This is where fans oftentimes get confused and make a mistake in their assumptions. Superman has always been a contemporary hero. Contemporary for whatever time he's in. Superman in the 60s was contemporary. He was a contemporary Superman. But being a contemporary Superman in the 60s meant that he came across a certain way. But if you're going to be true to Superman and make him a contemporary hero, that means when you do Superman in the 70s, he's got to be contemporary to the 70s. He's not a 60s superhero. He's a contemporary superhero, right? Captain America, Steve Rogers, is different. Captain America is supposed to be a guy whose personality and morals and convictions were all formed during the World War, the fight against Hitler, right? So Captain America is not a contemporary hero. So whenever you're doing a Captain America and you're doing Steve Rogers, he's got to have his base foundation in that era. That era is where his core kind of traits has to come from. Superman is not that. Superman has always been a contemporary hero. So when you're making Superman in the 80s, he's got to be contemporary to the 80s. When you're making Superman in the 90s, he's got to be contemporary to the 90s. When you're making a Superman in 2024, he's got to be contemporary to 2024. Because that's what Superman is. And therefore, Superman done in 2024 is going to look different than a Superman done in the 1980s. Or how he was written in the 1960s. So, yeah, I don't see James. I think you'll take the spirit of Superman, the hopeful, a little bit more hopeful, a little bit more optimistic, a little bit more joyful, as Rob would say, but not the 70s. I don't think you're going to see the little curl and, well, hello there, ma'am. I don't think you're going to get that. But bring over some of the spirit of it, I think. I mean, that's just the best way I know how to put it at any rate. All right, great question, man. All right, let's see. Next up, Topher Rocks writes, what could you see Neil Druckmann doing in the future? Stick with the Last of Us universe or branch out and write direct different live action projects? It's hard to say because here's the reality. While I think having Druckmann on The Last of Us as the creator of the game is key, this is Maison's show, right? You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of The Spirit. No, let's back up. It reminds me of Rodriguez doing Sin City, right? Now, as a co-director on Sin City, let me bring this up here for a second. Because when he made Sin City, Robert Rodriguez was the director, right? But he had Frank Miller, who did the graphic novel, also on as a director. But let's be clear. Frank Miller wasn't really the director, right? And Robert Rodriguez was really the director. And when we saw Frank Miller then later on to try to go off and actually do some directing with The Spirit, well, we saw how that went. I don't know how much of The Last of Us can be attributed to Druckmann as much as it is Mason. So, and like we're 3 episodes in, I'm sure Druckmann will do something else, but it won't be until he's no longer working. It won't be until Druckmann goes off and tries to do something apart from Mason that we actually get to see if he can actually do any of this stuff. Because like in the example of Sin City, when Frank Miller was no longer, riding Robert Rodriguez's coattails, it turned out to be a disaster, right? So will that be what happens with Druckmann? Don't know. Like, listen, we're 3 episodes in. Tonight will be 4. We're 3 episodes into The Last of Us. And really, it's Mason's show. But, Druckmann's there, and I'm sure he has a definite impact on the show. But we won't know whether he can actually do this on his own until he actually gives something a shot. So I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. It's a good question, though. All right. Next up, Merk Lee writes, are you a digital movie collector? And if so, why don't you collect physical? Yeah, no, I'm not. I gave up on physical media 10 years ago. I've explained a million reasons why. Physical discs get damaged. Physical discs go missing. Physical discs take up space. Physical discs are incredibly limited because if you don't have it sitting there, you can't use it. Everybody who's like, here's the thing. Every digital movie I've ever bought, I still have with me wherever I go at any time. If I wanted to, I mean, I don't know why I would on my phone right now when I've got my computer right here, but let's say I'm out for a walk. Let's say I'm out for a long 2-hour hike and I decide, I don't know, I want to watch Batman v Superman. Guess what? Can't do that with physical media. But if I want, I can pop on my headphones, load up my my phone. You can tell you can tell what I was listening to. Is this gonna? Yeah, you can tell what I was listening to in the car on the way over. I can open up my phone, go into my Google Play Store, boom, pop on Batman versus Superman. If I'm up in Canada visiting my family, guess what? I got my whole movie collection with me. Wherever I go, my whole movie collection is with me. It takes up no space. It doesn't get lost. People don't borrow it. Discs don't get damaged. And it's always with me. It's always with me. So, yeah, look, no disrespect to people like Rob who are big physical media people. That's awesome. That's great. I'm not poo-pooing physical media. But for me, 10 years ago, I realized digital's the way to go. And then I go, well, what happens if digital you know what? Here's the thing. Everybody, when I was collecting physical media, disc would go missing all the time. And whenever people say, I have never once misplaced or lost a disc, liar. Lying lies filled with liar pants. Like I was just talking to Rob the other day. I talked about this show, not the other day. It was a few weeks ago. Talking to Rob. He's like, oh, he was just talking, I got that, was in the mood to watch something. And I couldn't find the disc. Damn it. I couldn't find the disc. I'm like, oh, aren't you one of the guys who told me that you never lose a disc? He goes, okay, well, maybe I lose them sometimes and I misplace them. Guess what? I never lose them. They're right here 24/7, whenever I need it, whenever I want it. Doesn't matter if I'm on a plane at the Campea Ranch up in Canada. Doesn't matter if I'm taking a train across the country, if I'm in San Diego, if I'm in New York, doesn't matter. My whole movie collection, always with me all the time. Never gets lost, never gets damaged, takes up no space in my house, don't have to move it. It's always there when I need it. So, hey, all due respect to people who love their physical media. Absolutely all due respect. There are advantages to physical media too. There are. I'm just going over the advantages of digital and why I made the choice like a decade ago to switch over to digital. And I'll never go back. Never go back. All right. All right, next up. Mongo writes, it's cool that you have teamed up with Real Rejects to do a live show. By the way, keep up the great work. Yeah, listen, Greg, I've known Greg for a long time. Greg's actually, do you know that Greg was the first guy I interviewed? Like when I made my documentary, Movie Trailers, A Love Story, go and check it out today. The first interview we did was actually Greg. Greg was the first one we did. So I like Greg a lot. So yeah, when we were planning to do this, Greg was, they were asking me, hey, who would you want to do something like this with? One of the first names I said was Greg Alba. I think Greg's the guy to do something like this. He's terrific. I love Greg. All right. Next up, Fang Blaze writes, just a reminder, cats are great. Cats, hey, listen, some people like pimples. Sure. Some people like pimples. Some people like getting rashes on their feet. Some people like cats. It's all good. You do you, man. You do you. I'm not here to judge. All right. Ismail Montoya writes, John, man, I remember the solo shows. Love the crew. This is cool. By the way, I'm excited for the Batman 2 news. Robert Pattinson is my favorite Batman. Well, Ben Affleck is still my favorite Batman, but Robert Pattinson has proved all the doubters wrong. Robert Pattinson did a terrific job playing a very different new iteration of The Dark Knight. I thought he was terrific. I think Matt Reeves did a tremendous job. I cannot wait for the next one. Very, very excited about it. All right. Hey guys, what we're going to do, my cup runneth empty again. So we're going to take another quick break here while I stretch my legs, rest my voice for a minute, go refill my drink. And while we do, we're going to take a second to thank another sponsor of our video here today. You guys know, all of us here at the John Campea Show, we love Masterclass. I'm on this thing all the time. You guys absolutely need to check them out. And they just happen to be one of the sponsors of our show. So let's take a second and listen to the good folks from Masterclass. We want to thank a sponsor of this video, Masterclass. Masterclass offers classes on a wide variety of topics, all taught by world-class instructors at the very top of their fields. Each class is broken out into individual video lessons, usually around 10 minutes long. And Masterclass is completely accessible on your phone, the web, smart TV, and available via audio mode to listen to classes on the go. They have over 2,500 video lessons from over 180 of today's most brilliant minds. They're all available anytime, anywhere on iOS, Android, desktop, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, and Roku. Now, obviously around here on the John Campea Show, we love our movies, so why not learn filmmaking from Jodie Foster, or maybe directing from Ron Howard himself, or the great Neil Gaiman doing his masterclass on the art of storytelling. And you guys have heard me talk about my favorite masterclass, Business Strategy and Leadership by Big Papa Iger himself, Bob Iger, the new and returning CEO of Disney. So guys, I highly recommend that you check it out. Get unlimited access to every class, and as a John Campea Show listener, you get 15% off an annual membership. Just go to masterclass.com/Campea now. That's masterclass.com/Campea for 15% off Masterclass. And thank you to our friends at Masterclass for being a sponsor and helping pay the bills of the John Campea Show, and just for being such a terrific service. Guys, make sure you go and check out all of our sponsors today's show, Masterclass and Fume. Make sure you check the show. You saw we have the promo codes in there. Go check them out, because when you support our sponsors, you're actually supporting us. And thank you again to both Fume and Masterclass. All right, guys, let's get through the remaining questions here, shall we? We're going to pick things up with, that was Ismail was the last one we did. We're going to go to Cosmics now. All right. Also, I'm going to politely disagree with your assessment of Disneyland. I respect your decision not to go because you're being honest. Yeah, listen, hold a second. I'm actually getting a call from my business guy. Hey, Scott, I am actually live and on air streaming right now as we speak. May I call you again later? Sure. Great. Then I will do that in just a little bit. I'll call you in a bit. Bye-bye. That was Scott, one of our business guys here. He actually helps gets us all our sponsors and everything. So that was Scott's voice. Listen, there are many great things about Disneyland. There are. The Indiana Jones ride, still my favorite ride. Anywhere, any park, anytime. The Indiana Jones ride at Disneyland is incredible. But the sheer expense of it, the way they nickel and dime people there, and then the way, I mean, again, for me, the way they completely fucked me over, by, Ann and I decided to go to Disneyland for our anniversary. We paid for the expensive hotel there at Disneyland because it was our anniversary, right? And we went because we wanted to do the new Marvel area, the Web Slinger, and we wanted to do Rise of the Resistance. And we paid our money, made our reservations. By the way, we have seasons passes at Universal Studios Hollywood. You don't have to reserve a spot to go. We can just show up. But even with an annual pass at Disneyland, you got to reserve your spot in advance. But whatever. So we booked our spot to get into the park, right? But you had to make a reservation, and you could only do it the day of to get on Rise of the Resistance or get on Web Slinger, right? And they would open up the digital virtual queue at a certain time. So great. So we bought our tickets at Disneyland. The day came that we were going to go to the park, and we went to book our ride, and we were there 30 seconds before it opened, hitting refresh, and then it opened. Great. Book reserve. Booked. Like in a split second, it was booked. And then we're like, okay, try to do it for Web Slinger. Refresh. The second came that it opens. Okay, it's open. Great. Book our spot. Booked. So basically, we spent a couple $1,000s now we were treating ourselves a little bit because it was our anniversary weekend. We were going down there. We got the hotel, all that kind of stuff. Bought our tickets, all that nonsense. And the two main things we wanted to do, they're like, come to Disneyland, come see the new Web Slinger, come ride Rise of the Resistance. Okay, so we paid all of our money and went down there only to find out we couldn't get on those two things. The two things we went to go do. So, like rational people, we thought, well, you know what? Let's cancel our passes today because we hadn't gone into the park yet. We're like, let's cancel our passes today and we'll come back another day when we can go on the 2 big rides. So I call customer support. Some of you have heard this story before. And I'm like, hey, yeah, we've got tickets and passes for Disneyland today. But hey, we found out that the reason we came, the Rise of the Resistance ride and the Web Slinger ride, we found out that we can't get on those today. So we'd like to cancel our tickets today and rebook for another day. And they're like, we're sorry. You have to cancel at least 24 hours in advance. And I'm like, okay, point of order, asshole. Point of order. There was no way for us to know that we wouldn't be able to get on Rise the Resistance because the way you set up your system is that we have to be here on the day to get into the digital queue and get in. And we did everything the way you said it was supposed to be done. We're here. We tried to get on the thing and we found out we can't get it. The whole reason we came was to do those 2 rides. They're like, yeah, we're sorry about that. I'm like, okay, that's fine, but let us cancel our passes today and let us come back another day. Sorry, you have to cancel these 24 hours in advance. I'm like, wait a minute. So you're telling me that you have set up a system that guarantees you take our money, and by the time we find out we're not able to do the things we came here to do, it is too late to get our money back? They're like, yeah. And like, I'm sorry, but Italians are, Vincini in The Princess Bride says, never get into a wager with a Sicilian when death is on the line. Never fuck an Italian out of their money, because Italians get real pissy when you cheat them out of their money. And I got real mad. And I'm like, mwah, fuck Disney. Fuck Disney and their stupid mouse fucking mouth. I at that moment, I developed a lifelong hatred of Disneyland, a lifelong hatred of Disneyland at that point, because they cheated me out of my money, and they created a system where they could take my money. And by the time I found out they couldn't deliver on the things we were promised by going to the park, it was too late to get our money back. That was the system they set up. And I'm like, F them. I'm never going back. At least I'll never give them another dollar. Again, we had friends that had a free guest pass. I was able to go and not spend any money. That was fine. But by the way, can you tell I'm still bitter about that experience? Can you tell I am still a wee bit bitter? I don't let go of these things very easily. Maybe I need to talk to somebody. I don't know. Maybe I'm just using you as my therapy here. I need to talk this out because I am still very, very bitter about it. So yeah, that's why Universal Studios Hollywood will be my go-to place. Universal Studios Hollywood is officially my go-to place. But anyway. There's all that. All right. But hey, listen, if you enjoy Disneyland, I'm not trying to yuck on your yum. You go, you have fun, and I'm glad that you do. I will just never darken their rip-off artist, snake oil salesman ways again. But that's just me. Okay. And like I said, my own wife is there today. Anne is off there today. She's out there having fun with Kat. So whatever. All right. Next up, we got Aunt Banks 1984 writes, I would love to see a Blazing Saddles remake, but I'm afraid that because of today's climate, they wouldn't be able to be as edgy as original. Again, listen, we talked about this a little bit earlier in the show. I hear people talk about that all the time, like with The Office. You couldn't make The Office today. Yeah, you absolutely could. Because it's the way it was done back then is still a way you can do it today. Because it's done in a satirical, whatever way. And like when Michael in The Office would say like really outlandish things, it was never meant to be taken seriously. It was meant to be like, he's so weird, right? It was never like this. Michael Scott was saying things the way they really are. No, it was never presented like that. I think you totally could do it right. I think you could do it and you could do it right. Again, in a world where Tosh.0 exists, you could absolutely do it. I 100% believe you can do it. All right. And Blade, by the way, if you guys have not seen Blazing Saddles, you got to see Blazing Saddles. Where are the white women at? You got to see it. It's like one of the funniest movies ever made. All right. Quinn Udi writes, which NBA player stands out as the best actor? No idea. No idea. I couldn't, none are any good. None are actually any good at it. All right. Brennan Mystical Mar writes, hey, John, been following since 2012. Thank you, man. When I saw The Dark Knight, I came out of the theater shaking. What movie had that similar effect on you? The first time I saw The Avengers. I still remember coming out of The Avengers. I saw it at the El Capitan Theater in downtown Hollywood at an advanced press screening. And I remember all these jaded, prickly film critics coming out of that, and they were all just buzzing. And I remember, like, Anne was with me, and I was like almost shaking. Like, I could not believe what they were able to put on screen in that movie. It's not the greatest movie of all time. I do think it's the greatest comic book movie ever made. But yeah, it absolutely, just absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy how much I just shook. That, and you know what else? You might not be expecting me to say this movie, but Viola Davis and Octavia Spencer's The Help with Emma Stone. I remember I came out of that movie just floored. And I remember I got on social media. I think I made a Facebook post about it or something when I came out of seeing that movie. And because I wasn't allowed to tell people the movie I had just seen yet. But I came out and I remember writing on Facebook, I said, I just watched a movie that reminds me about why we love the movies. And so that one had a big impact on me as well. But yeah, the first Avengers movie, man, that one really did it for me. All right. Al Renshaw writes, I saw Knock at the Cabin yesterday and it was solid. It's amazing to see the growth in Bautista's acting ability from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1 to this movie. See, that's what happens when you get somebody who has questionable talent. Like, why did I keep freezing on Magic Mike Boy, Channing Tatum? That's what happens when you get a guy like Channing Tatum or a guy like Dave Bautista who have questionable starting out talent, right? And I love both these guys. I'm not trying to be mean, but I used to think that Channing Tatum was the worst actor in Hollywood getting roles. But when you take people like that who are 100% committed to the craft and who work their asses off to get better at it, because Dave Bautista just has done nothing but worked and worked and worked and worked to try to become a legitimate actor. And you can see the effects. You can see the results. Channing Tatum has gone from being a guy that I dubbed as the worst actor in Hollywood getting movies to an actor I legitimately get excited about seeing in movies today. Because these two are great examples of people who become dedicated and put in the work and work for years and years and years at getting better and better and better. And you can see the effects. And I think they're great poster children for something like that. And Dave Bautista is actually absolutely one of those. All right. Fangblaze71 writes, Wakanda is supposed to be this massively powerful country, but I feel like we never see the full force of their army, even in Infinity War / Endgame. Yeah, true. I especially thought in Wakanda Forever, it was very odd. It's like, wait a minute, you're going out to face Talocan and you're bringing like 100 or 200 people on a boat? Really? I get it. There are financial impacts. Like if you want to do a big scale where like a 200,000 person army is, I don't know. I get it. It would be difficult. It would be challenging, but I agree with you that it really has, even in the first Black Panther movie, which I really like a lot. Wakanda feels more like a quaint little town, right? Like, and I say this as somebody who loves the first Black Panther movie, but Wakanda feels like a town, this really advanced town. They never make it feel like a nation. And I would love to see them like really address it as a nation. So I don't know. Again, it would be, I acknowledge it would be very, very challenging to do though. Very, very challenging to do. All right. Next up, Jamal B. Castro writes, this year is going to be the 30th anniversary of Last Action Hero. What are your thoughts on the movie? And if you had the magic movie ticket, what movies would you want to go visit? Listen, I'm not going to lie. We talked about this. We talked about Last Action Hero a couple of years ago. not the best Arnie movie. Listen, it's got its cult following fans, and that's great. I mean, look, but in the general question of what movies would I'd love to be able to go into, Star Wars. Of course, Star Wars. Star Wars is my life and breath and everything. I absolutely love Star Wars. So I would want to go into the world of Star Wars. That's what I would want to do. All right. Thanks for that, Jamal. But really, 30 years. Whoo. 30 years old that movie's turning. That is crazy. Brendan Tott writes, will an animated movie ever make $2 billion at the box office? I think Mario is going to be so huge that it has a chance. Look, listen, an animated movie is just a movie, right? An animated movie is just a movie. So an animated movie has as much chance at becoming a $2 billion film as any. Now, I don't think Mario Brothers will be it, but, we were talking about this on the show the other day. I have gone from not knowing if the Mario Brothers movie could even come anywhere near $1 billion. I have changed my mind on that. I now kind of think that the Mario Brothers movie legitimately has a chance to be the biggest movie of 2023. I mean, there's no Justice League movie this year. There's no Avatar movie this year. And there's no Avengers movie this year. Now, again, it all depends on if Mario Brothers is any good. Like, if Mario Brothers isn't that good, then it's not going to be the biggest film of the year. But all other things being equal, if Mario Brothers ends up being as good as it kind of looks like it could be, I've just come to believe that it could very well be the biggest film of the year. $2 billion? Again, only 6 films in history have ever made $2 billion. I don't know that Mario Brothers is going to be the 7th. But anything is possible, man. Like, listen, it's a family-friendly film. It's a movie that, if it's good, parents are going to want to see because we all grew up playing Mario Brothers. Kids are going to be into, and parents are going to want to take something to do with the kids. They're going to take their kids to go see this thing over and over and over again if it's good. Biggest film of the year, I think, has a very, very solid chance at it. A $2 billion film, again, let's not get ahead of ourselves. There are only 6 films in cinematic history have ever done it. So I'm going to say no, but never say never. Let's see how good the movie is. All right. Thanks, Brendan. Quinn Udi writes, odds of T'Challa variant introduced in Secret Wars, 0. I don't think they're going to do that at all, to be honest with you. Logan Hoyen writes, would you ever come to Florida to do a meetup? If somebody wanted, if some sponsor wanted to give me $5,000 that I could book flights and hotels and food and a venue to fly down to Florida to do it, I would absolutely do it in a heartbeat. But it's a very, very expensive endeavor. So it needs somebody to come along and put up a whole bunch of money for us to do it. Samir Makani writes, sends in like a $20 super chat. Thank you, Samir. I appreciate that. Hey, John, I'm going to Toronto in June. Awesome. For a cousin's wedding. I don't really like that side of the family, LOL, but looking forward to visiting the city. Any recommendations on what to do? Tim Hortons is on the list already. Well, listen, Tim Hortons is going to be on every street corner. So you're going to actually have a hard time avoiding Tim Hortons. So you're covered there. Listen, is the most touristy thing to do? Yes, but you got to visit the CN Tower. You got to visit the CN Tower. And you got to go up the tower. I mean, the view, I'm afraid of heights, and it is the most breathtaking, unbelievable, incredible view. So yeah, it's a very touristy thing to say, I know, but I always recommend people make sure you go and check out the CN Tower, and I hope you have a good time. Even if it's with the side of your family you're not all that thrilled with. And thank you again, for Samir, for supporting our channel on that level, man. We really appreciate that. And take pictures. If you go and you get a chance to get to the CN Tower, take pictures. All right. Next up, we got Let's Go Network writes, I saw your agenda video. Would you admit shows and films like She-Hulk, Ms. Marvel, and Thor Love and Thunder have a very clear agenda as well? No, they don't. The only thing that they tell stories. We tell all sorts of stories. And when you're the one to come up and say, don't tell those stories, you're the one with the agenda. You should be able to go out there and tell any kind of stories you want. Any kind of stories you want. Look, here's the thing. If you're going to say that like She-Hulk had an agenda, right? Here's the one point I bring up all the time. You get a lot of these whiners out there that because like 3 out of the last 9 Marvel projects had female leads, and they say there's a female agenda. Well, wait a minute. Time out. Point of order. The first 20 MCU movies all had white, straight, male leads. 20 in a row. 20 in a row. Was that an agenda? I'm just asking you. Because if you're going to say a movie centering on a female character dealing with female issues is somehow, and from a female perspective, is somehow an agenda, well, then was 20 fucking movies in a row. And by the way, I love those 20 movies. I have no problem with them myself. But what I'm saying is, if you're going to say that's an agenda, then what about 20 straight movies in a row that refuse to have anything other than straight white male leads in 20 in a row? Was that an agenda? Was that an anti-women, only straight white male lead? Was that an agenda of that? I don't think it was. But now that they're doing other kinds of movies too, now we're going to tell stories about like women, or tell stories about a nation of Wakanda. We're just going to tell all these different types of stories. It's never an agenda to tell a story. It's an agenda to be against those stories being told. That's where the agendas come in. When you say those people don't have a place here, when you say that person doesn't have the right to have their stories told, when you say keep those people off our screen, you're the one with the agenda. It's just that simple. And Hollywood, as great as it is, for over a century has had very active and aggressive agendas of exclusion, like very, very strong agendas of exclusion. And what we're seeing now is that agenda being dismantled and being taken down. There's an old saying that says, how does it go again? It's something along the lines of, to the privileged, equality seems like oppression. Let me say that again. And I might not be getting the wording exactly right. If you know what the saying I'm talking about, and you know the proper wording of it. But to the privileged, to those who have lived with privilege, equality feels like oppression. And that's what it is. That's what we have here. When people have been living behind this safe little insulated, barbaric walls of exclusion, like keep everybody else out, keep their stories away. We don't want their stories. Only tell my stories. Keep these people out. I don't want to see black people on the screen. I don't want to see gay people on the screen. I don't want to see women leading a superhero movie. I don't want to see any of that. Keep them away. That's the agenda. And now, whenever you start to take down those agendas, people feel threatened because they're scared, because they're fearful little snowflakes. And that's what we see happening. We're seeing people getting scared because their century-old agendas are starting to be taken down, and we're just starting to make storytelling on screens an open playground for everybody. Everybody gets to tell their stories. We get to see stories being told from different perspectives and people that have traditionally not had a place on the big screen or the small screen. And when people who are just used to living with the privilege of their agendas starts to have those agendas taken away, people get scared. They get scared. And that's what you're seeing. We see a bunch of frightened little children running around going, "Ah!" They're scared. They're filled with fear. And when people are filled with fear, they lash out. And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing children lash out. We're seeing fear-filled children lashing out because the safety of their century-old agenda is starting to be taken away. We're taking down the walls and we're letting other people in. We're getting rid of the agendas, and that scares people. And in a world where to the privileged equality feels like oppression, to people having their agendas taken away feels to them like a different agenda. Wait a minute, you're not keeping the gays out anymore? What kind of agenda is this? We're getting rid of your fear-filled hatred agenda that's been around for over a century. It's time for that to go. That's not the world we live in anymore. We live in a world where we're going to let other stories be told. We're going to let the perspectives of other people be told. And I get it. To people who have been living with the privilege of their hate-filled agenda for over 100 years, that is scary to them. And when people get scared, they get filled with fear. And when people get filled with fear, they lash out.
Fear is the path of the dark side. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to man babies.
That was a terrible Yoda impersonation. I grant you that. It was terrible. It's true nonetheless. Master Yoda had a lot of wise things to say about today's socioeconomic perspectives and scenarios going on. But anyway, yeah. So no, She-Hulk did not have an agenda. She-Hulk was just got rid of the agenda of keeping those stories away and letting a show actually be told from a female's perspective, talking about female issues from females' points of view. Just like we've been telling stories of straight white male stories, points of view forever, and we will continue to tell stories from, hey, I am a straight white male. I love being a straight white male. It's fun being a straight white male, and I celebrate being a straight white male. But guess what? Being a straight white male, I get to celebrate other people telling their stories too. Because I'm not an insecure little fuck baby. But anyway, that's just me. All right. Next up. Shazam writes, when you look back throughout your career, early start, AMC, Collider, John Campea Show, would you change anything to get to where you are now? That's a good question. It's a good question. Because, they say this in life, right? Even your biggest mistakes have been a part of the journey that have taken you to where you are today, right? Even your biggest mistakes are part of that journey. Like even my own mistakes, whether the good things that have happened to me, the bad things that have happened to me, the good things I've done, the mistakes that I have made, all of those things have made up a roadmap that have brought me to where I am today. Listen, 1,000 different things could have gone differently that would have led me to not moving to LA, which I wouldn't have met my wife. I mean, it's just a lot of different things. So is there anything that I would change? It's hard. I mean, some days I think I should never have gone to Collider. There are days that I really, because when I decided to leave AMC, I had several really interesting offers on the table that I was going to do. And I got taken with this notion when I talked with AMC and with Complex Media, the people who owned Collider at the time, the idea that we're going to be able to save almost everybody's jobs. We'll be able to keep the whole team together and we'll just bring them all over to Collider. Like that was very, very appealing to me. And there are certainly days where I wish I hadn't have done that for different reasons that I won't go into, and I'm not going to dish anything right here, but there are definitely days that I think that was a mistake, and I should have taken one of these other offers that I had, and I should have branched out at the time. But even that, I don't know that I would be where I am today, being the happiest, most content I've ever been, had I not made that choice to go to Collider. So I don't know. It's hard to say. Again, it's the bigger thing about every decision you've made has been a part of getting you to where you are now. So I don't know. It's a great question, man. This is a deeper question than I thought we were going to get in here today. But thank you for that. It's a really, really good one. And you know what, guys? I think that's it. That's all the questions that I had here today. So yeah, listen, I still got a little bit of time. We got through that a little bit quicker than I thought. We've been going for about 2 hours now. I'm going to take some time here, and take some questions from the live chat. If you guys are in the live chat here, do me a favor. If you got a question for me in the live chat, type it all in capital letters just so I know it's a question for me, and not just talk amongst yourselves. So yeah, if you got any questions, by the way, I cannot guarantee I'm going to get all of them. I may read one quick one and not think it's the best one for the show. D Murdoch is saying, check the poll. Yeah, the poll ended, and it ended with 55%. I believe it was 55%. People do believe that Ant-Man and the Wasp will make over $120 million at the box office on opening weekend. 45% said under. So real close. Again, I hope it's over. I love the Ant-Man franchise. I just don't know because, again, I'm not sure how those trailers are going to impact or work for people who are more general average movie going on. So I hope you guys are right. But yeah, the final result was 55% believe it will make 120 million or more. 45% said under. All right. Let's see here. Watson Duncan says, did you hear Sam and Henry are in the episode tonight? No, I didn't. Somebody asked that earlier if I think they would be in tonight. And I said, I didn't think they would be yet. I thought it was maybe a bit too early for it, but if they actually are, I mean, that's going to make for an interesting thing. Tachi Victor writes, who do you got in Volk versus Makachev? I've actually got Volkanovski. Makachev is a beast, but I think Volkanovski is the best. I think he's the best pound for pound fighter in the world right now. Now that Nurmagomedov is retired, I think Volkanovski is the best pound for pound fighter in the world. Now, Makachev is a beast and he very well could win that fight. But if I had to put $5 on it, I'm guessing Volk is going to win. Let's see. Greg Gillian is writing, is there anything happening for the Jurassic Park 30th anniversary that you know of? Ooh, that's a good question. Man, Jurassic Park is turning 30? Is that true? 30? Holy crap. Holy crap. I have not heard of anything happening for the Jurassic World 30, but I'm sure somebody's got to be doing something. I mean, I'll keep my eyes open for it, for sure. Let's see. B Webb writes, hey, John, do you think Poison Ivy or Clayface could work in the Reeves universe? No. The Matt Reeves Batman universe is far too grounded. So you could with stretching certain things and doing a little adaptation, you could do like a Mr. Freeze, a KG Beast. There are a lot of different, a Penguin. There are a lot of different types of characters that are more grounded, but the more supernatural ones, the ones that are really sci-fi based, like a Poison Ivy, like a Clayface, those are going to be very, very problematic to do in a grounded, more realistic feeling Batman universe. Now, they could get a supervillain who's an actor and they just call him Clayface, but he's not going to have the superpowers of Clayface. You know what I mean? So no, I don't think we're going to see a Matt Reeves villain that has superpowers per se. I mean, you never know what Matt Reeves will do. Maybe he could, but I have a feeling that they're not going to do that. Let's see. FYP Heroes writes, John, thoughts on Colin Farrell's comments on the Penguin series started after Batman Part 1 and that Batman 2 will start off where Penguin leaves off. I did not hear those comments, but it makes sense. I'm glad it's not an origin story because I don't want to go backwards. I want to pick up with Cobblepot where we left off with him in the Batman, and I do want it to be a chapter mark in between the Batman Part 1 and Part 2. So I had not heard his comments on that, but if that's what he said, I think it's great. I think it's great. All right. Tenrenta writes, did you see Katie Sackhoff reacting to the Mandalorian poster on Harloff's channel? No, I did not. I have not. I love Katie Sackhoff, though. I've been a big fan of hers ever since, obviously, Battlestar Galactica. But yeah, so Under Kelly writes, is Movie Trailers a Love Story available for channel members yet? No, not yet, but I will be making, for those of you who are our beloved channel members, and thank you to all of you who are our channel members, I mentioned on a channel member town hall a little while ago that pretty soon my Movie Trailers a Love Story, which is available on Amazon right now. If you go to Amazon Video, you can search for it. I am going to be making it available to channel members soon. So it's not up yet, but it probably this month we'll be making it available to our channel members. All right. Let's see here. Let's see. Richard Murphy, right? Are you going to do a reaction watch for Ant-Man 3 tomorrow? I do, maybe. I got to talk to a couple of friends of mine who are going to go see it and find out when the reaction embargo is, because the reaction embargo might be tomorrow. And if it is, then I should be doing a reaction watch. If the review embargo is the next day, it might have to wait. But that's a good question, Richard. Thank you for reminding me, because we really should be doing a reaction watch. Thank you for that. Let's see here. Tom's Movie Talk writes, John, do you think an Optimus Prime solo movie will ever happen? Nah, you don't, because basically the Transformers movies are already basically Optimus Prime movies, right? He is the main lead character of the Transformers, and he's the big main lead character in all the Transformers movies other than Bumblebee, for obvious reasons. So I don't really see there being a purpose to doing a standalone solo, because any Optimus Prime movie you do is going to have other Transformers anyway. So it's not really an Optimus Prime solo movie. Like, unless you're going to make a movie about Optimus Prime moving to New York City to pursue his dream of being a Broadway actor, and there's no other Transformers in it, I don't really see what the point is. I mean, it's just a Transformers movie. So I don't really think so. All right, guys, that'll do it for our time here today. Thank you so much for being here and oops, I'm whacking the microphone. Thank you so much for being here and joining me here today for this installment of Ask Me Anything with John. It's been a great privilege to have you guys here on this Sunday. Now, what are we? An hour and 20 minutes away from The Last of Us episode 4. I cannot wait. I am so freaking excited. I can't wait for us to talk about it on the John Campea Show tomorrow. Don't forget, guys, also tomorrow afternoon, we're going to have our Last of Us episode 4 open spoiler discussion at 3 p.m. Los Angeles time. That's 6 p.m. New York time. Hope you guys will come by and enjoy us. Also, guys, don't forget, I want to bring your attention again. If you live anywhere near the LA area, don't forget that 2 weeks from today, on Sunday, February 19th in Burbank, California, we are having an evening with Campea, Harloff, and Alba. If you live in the area, there are still some tickets available. Check in the community tab on the YouTube channel. Just click on the community tab and you'll see 1 or 2 posts down. You'll see this poster with a link to where you can go and get the tickets. We hope to see you guys there, and we'll have to come on down and join us for that. And of course, guys, come on back and join us again for the John Campea Show tomorrow. We look forward to having you there. It'll be me, Rob, and Chris. And of course, the other guys will be here as well, Ray and Jonathan and Taylor. So make sure you guys come and join us for that. Big special thank you to all you guys who sent in the super chats. Number 1, you gave us great fun things to talk about. And number 2, you supported this channel as you did it. And all of us involved with the network here, guys. Thank you guys so much for your support. So that'll do it for me for now, guys. Thanks a lot for being here. My name's John Campea. And until next time, my friends, bye-bye.